All right, so I'm going to have everything about a transversal of parallel lines on this one paper. That's why I called it a cheat sheet. Everything localized in one spot. So the first thing we need to do is we need to be able to recognize the types of angles, okay, and their relationship, know the definition, and know what that means. All of these types of angles are either congruent, which means they are equal, or they are supplementary, which means they add together to equal 180 degrees. So let's focus on corresponding angle. Let's get our definition here. So corresponding angles are on the same side of our transversal and in the same spot. Okay, so I have two parallel lines. That makes this line my transversal. Okay, so I'm going to be coloring with lots of different colors today. My orange line, that's my transversal. Okay, you have four sets of corresponding angles. Okay, I want you to look at the transversal and the two parallel lines. This transversal creates four angles. 1, 2, 3, 4 on that parallel line. It creates 1, 2, 3, 4 on this parallel line. The top right angle that I'm trying to color yellow, okay, that corresponds with the top right here. Okay, those are corresponding angles because they're on the same side of the transversal and in the same spot. Y'all grab my door. All right, this angle that is in the top left, it corresponds with top left down here. They are in the same side of the transversal and the same spot as in above the parallel line and to the left of the transversal. So then if I pick bottom left over here, what angle is corresponding to it? Would have to stay bottom left down here. And then that leaves bottom right and bottom right to be corresponding. Now, corresponding angles, they are congruent. Okay, what does it mean to be congruent? They are equal to each other. So the angle equals the angle. So if I tell you that the pink angle was, let's go easy, let's say 100. If the pink angle is 100, what's its corresponding angle? It's also 100. If this green angle right here is 105, what would this green angle be? 105. So corresponding angles are in the same side of the transversal and in the same spot. Okay, so they're congruent. All right, the next type of angle we learned are alternate interior. Now, the words give it away. Alternate, that means they are on opposite sides of the transversal. Interior, if you are on the interior, where are you out? Outside or inside? You are inside the parallel lines. Okay, so again, orange, this is my transversal. Alternate interior angles would be on opposite sides of that transversal. So one on the left, one on the right, but they have to stay inside the parallel lines. So they would be in here. So I'm going to choose an angle. I'm going to color this interior angle pink. Its alternate interior is on the opposite side inside the parallel lines. All right? So then there's actually a second set of alternate interior. There's only four interior angles. So if I have this angle, it is alternate interior to this one. So what I'm trying to do with all my colors is to show you the different pairs of alternate interior. Now, alternate interior, those are congruent. So if their relationship is congruent, what does that mean? It means they are equal. Okay, so whatever this is perfectly equal to that. So if you know what alternate interior is, what do you think alternate exterior is going to be? It's going to be alternate is opposite sides of the transversal, and if it is exterior, where is it located? Outside the parallel lines. Okay, so I got my transversal. All right, this is my transversal. Because it is alternate, one has to be on the left, one has to be on the right. So if I start with this angle, it is exterior, and on the left, where's its alternate exterior going to be? It's got to be outside, but if you're going to alternate, it's going to be outside and on the right. So, alternate exterior. There's one more set of alternate exterior. If you start with the top right, its alternate exterior is going to be opposite side, other exterior. Now, what do you remember about alternate exterior? Do you remember what they are? True. They're on different sides. Exterior, are they congruent or supplementary? Everything alternate was congruent. So if I know one of those, which means they are equal, I know the other. So if I tell you this pink is 85 degrees, that guarantees that this pink is 85 degrees. So corresponding is congruent. Alternate interior and alternate exterior are also congruent. All right, so then we start seeing a different word, consecutive. Consecutive means that it's one right after the other. So if you have consecutive interior angles, those are going to be on the same side of the transversal. And if it's interior, where do you find it? It's going to be on the inside of the parallel lines. Okay. So if I start with this interior angle, so I had to start with interior because it's going to be consecutive interior. Its consecutive interior is going to be the one right down here. My two angles, what do they make when I put them together? Even though I put them together kind of weird, they make a straight line. My other consecutive interior would be this angle and this angle. And together they make 180 degrees, which means they are supplementary. And just in case you can't remember, supplementary means add together to equal how many degrees? 180 degrees. So this plus this equals 180. All right, so my next one is going to be consecutive exterior. You already know what exterior is. Where are you going to find exterior? Outside. Okay. Alternate is opposite. Consecutive is same side. So a consecutive exterior is on the same side of the transversal, but outside of the parallel lines. So this is your transversal. Okay. If you don't need to be reminded that's your transversal, that's fine. Okay. So if I start with this exterior angle, my match or my pair is going to be one of these. Consecutive means if this is on the right side, I have to stay on the right side. So those two angles are consecutive exterior. I also have another set of exterior angles. This angle is exterior. Its consecutive exterior will be outside the parallel and on the same side of the transversal. Now, these are one pair. These are another pair. Okay. When I look at these, this corresponds to here, which means they aren't equal to each other. These are also supplementary. And if you have two angles that are supplementary, what do you do with their measurements? They have to add together to equal 180 degrees. So if I tell you, I'm going to go easy. If I tell you this one is 100 degrees plus this equals 180. So how are you going to find this one? They have to add together. So 180 minus the 100 for this one gives me 80 left over. The next two sets of angle types, angle relationships, you actually already know. You have seen these before. Now, a linear pair, that would be adjacent angles. That would be two adjacent angles that form a straight line. Okay. Now, I'm going to mark a few linear pairs. Okay. I'm not going to mark them all because I'd have to draw all over the top of whatever I drew. This angle actually forms a linear pair with either this one or this one. Okay, so you could form a linear pair this way. If I color this angle right here, it forms a linear pair. It forms a straight line here, and it forms a straight line here. Both of those would be a linear pair. Now, I'm going to put a little star right here. There are lots of linear pairs. I don't want you to think that it's just those two, okay? It is any two angles that create a straight line. So, this one and this one, those are a linear pair. This angle could be a linear pair with that one because they make a straight line. It could be a linear pair with this one because they make a straight line. So there's like, I don't know, probably like 16 different ways you can make linear pairs here. Okay, you just need to be able to recognize them. Linear pairs make a straight line. And how many degrees are in a straight line? That would be 180. So they are supplementary. So you would take those two angles and you would add together to equal 180 degrees. All right, so the last set of angles that we actually already know the relationship of is vertical angles. You learned vertical angles when you just had one line intersected by another, so just two lines. Vertical angles are across from each other. Okay, so if I color this one pink, I have to go straight through the intersection, across the intersection, and those would be vertical angles. All right, what if I color this one? Vertical angles share the same vertex and are straight across from each other. So those are vertical angles. I have two other sets that I want to mark. Okay. Here's my yellow. Its vertical is across the intersection. And then I'll take my blue. If this is my angle, it can be vertical with that one. Now, we've done vertical angles for weeks. What do you remember about the measurements of vertical angles? Are they complementary, supplementary, or congruent? They are congruent. And if they are congruent, what does that mean? They are equal. So if you knew these two measures, or if these were two expressions with x's in them, which is what we will get to later today, then you would set those two equal to each other. All right, so now I want to show you a little shortcut, okay? So it's not really a shortcut, it's more of an observation. If I tell you that this angle is pink, you know that its vertical angle is also going to be pink. Why? Because they are the same thing, okay? Now, if you know your alternate interior angles are going to be the same thing. And then its vertical angle is the same thing. Okay. I call that zigzag because I find my transversal and I zigzag. I just jump zigzag style across. So if all of those are equal, if I tell you this one is 85 degrees, what can you tell me about the other pink angles? They're all 85 degrees. Okay. What are you going to do to find this green angle right here? All right. So 180 minus 85, I need help. What is that? 95, my friend says. I trust him, but you verify. So if that one's 95, what else do you know? The verticals are 95, the alternate interior, which is corresponding there, and then your alternate exterior. All of those are 95 degrees. Okay. What if I give you two parallel lines? Okay, you're not drawing, you're just looking and we're talking. What if I tell you that these two lines are parallel? I tell you that this one is 115 degrees, and I ask you to find me angle 1 and angle 2. All right, here's what I would do. I know that this is 115 degrees. I'm going to zigzag using my vertical angles, my corresponding angles, and I'm going to find everything that is also 115 degrees. Zigzag across the transversal, zigzag across the transversal, zigzag across the transversal. Okay, let me change my angle 2. Let me put my 2 right here. This is what I really wanted to happen. I need the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. So this is just us talking. It's not on your paper. Which angle can you tell me for certain without doing any work? Angle 2. What's angle 2? 115 degrees. It's the corresponding angle, therefore it's equal. Now, what are you going to do to tell me angle 1? All right, so 180 minus the 115, because that's 115. If you didn't know that one, you would know that those are not corresponding, consecutive exterior. And now I need help. What is 180 minus 115? 65, my friend tells me. I'm trusting you verify because I don't have a calculator and my brain doesn't want to do it. Okay, so you can zigzag down this pattern. Yes, you're right. I wrote my stuff in the wrong area, the wrong place. You're right. If we were grading that, I would be totally wrong. See, you got to pay attention. I told y'all I was off of it. I know, right? All right, so now that we straightened out my problem and we talked about a little bit, this is your cheat sheet. It tells you the definition, and then it's going to tell you the relationship. I even showed you my zigzag that I noticed. So I want you to flip over. We're going to look at 1 through 8 up here. And it says, given that line L is parallel to line M. That's important because if those two are parallel, that defines and makes it okay to have all those relationships down the transversal. Okay, I want you to find the missing angle, but I also want you to tell me the relationship. So if you have 115 and you have this one, are those on the same side or opposite sides? Opposite sides of the transversal. Are they inside or outside? Inside. So we would call that an alternate interior. So you'll have questions where you have to identify the relationship. You'll have other questions where you simply have to tell me the measure. So what do you know about 115 and an alternate interior? Very good. That question mark, that angle is 115. So that's the two things I wanted you to find. All right, so you're going to tell me what relationship, and remember, you have all of this here to tell you what to do. All right, this is supposed to be 89. Our copy was kind of struggling, it looks like. Okay, so that's 89 degrees. I need to know this one. Now, tell me, what is the relationship? They appear to be on the same side, and in the same spot. So what would we call that? Corresponding. And then what do you know about corresponding angles? They are equal. Here's another way. If you zigzag your way across, everything I just marked is equal to 89 degrees. Okay, so there's your lines. That is 120 degrees. All right, I'm looking for this angle. Now, there's your two parallel lines. This is your transversal. Are those two on opposite sides of the transversal or the same side? They're on the same side. So that makes them either corresponding or one of the consecutives. Are they in the same spot? This is above the parallel line. This is below the parallel line. So they're not in the same spot. Are they inside or outside? There's outside. So what do you call it when they're outside and on the same side? That would be consecutive exterior. That's right. Now, I want you to know that consecutive exterior would be supplementary. Let's say you forgot all that. If you will take your 120 and you will find it zigzag down that transversal, all of those things I marked are 120 degrees. Did I mark the angle with the question mark? Nope. So I do know that this is 120 and that angle are side by side. So how do I find what's left? 180 minus 120. And what is 180 minus 120? 60 degrees. So my answer is 60 degrees. All right. Number 4 here. So here's L and M. This is my transversal. Okay. I know this is 87. I want to know that angle. That's my question mark, which looks a little struggling. All right. Are my two angles on the same side or alternate sides of my transversal? Same side. Okay, so that tells you either corresponding, consecutive, interior, consecutive, exterior. Are these corresponding and sitting in the same spot? Nope. Where are they both located? Interior. So we would call this, let me find a good spot to write, consecutive interior. So now what we got to do is we got to figure out how they relate to each other. What did we write on the other side about consecutive interior angles? What's their relationship? They are supplementary. And what does it mean to be supplementary? Add up to be 180. So how are you going to find this missing one right here? You would do 180 minus 87. It would help if I could write in a place that would work. So let me do this. You're going to do 180 degrees minus 87. And 180 minus 87, here's my calculator. 180 minus 87 is 93 degrees. Now, if you weren't sure if they were supposed to be complementary or supplementary, do the zigzag. If you zigzag from 87, it's vertical, so zigzag, zigzag. So if they're marked the same, they're equal to each other. If one's marked and one is not, they are supplementary and they add to be 180. All right, so let's look at 5. All right, number 5, here's my two angles. What do you notice about those two angles? They are adjacent, so they're sitting side by side. Two adjacent angles sitting side by side make a what? Straight line. So what do we call it when we have adjacent angles that form a straight line? A linear pair. So this is a linear pair. Okay. And these two add to be 180. So if you know this is 104, how do you find that guy? Would be 180 minus 104. And 180 minus 104 gives us 76 degrees. So you're looking for those relationships. All right, look at number 6. I have 129, and then I have this question mark. Now, here's my transversal. Are they on the same side of the transversal or different sides? Different sides. So that tells me they're going to alternate sides. Okay. Are they interior, inside the parallel lines, or outside the parallel lines? So that is an alternate exterior set of angles. You've got to figure out, what do you know about them? What is the relationship? So it's on the front of your paper. Alternate exterior will be congruent. So if they are congruent, and this is 129, what is this one? 129 degrees. Now, let's say you forget alternate exterior is congruent. If you start at 129 and you zigzag back and forth across that transversal, everything I just marked is 129, so you know it's 129. All right, I've got 132 degrees, and then I've got this question mark. What is the relationship between those two? They're alternate sides, so I know it's going to be alternate. Are they inside or outside of the parallel? Outside, so alternate exterior. Now, I'm going to use my zigzag. I hope you know alternate exterior is congruent. But do you know as well as I do, sometimes you just forget, especially if you're taking a quiz or a test. Okay, I'm going to start with the 132 I know. I'm going to zigzag to its vertical. I'm going to zigzag to that corresponding, and then I'm going to zigzag to this one's vertical. Everything I just marked is 132. So what is this angle with the question mark? 132 degrees. All right. Number 8. Okay. So when I look at number 8, I have 110 and I have this angle. What do I know about these two because they share a vertex? They're equal and they are vertical angles. So these are vertical angles and they're equal. So if this is, what is that supposed to be? 110? What's this one? 110 degrees. All right, so for each of 9 through 14, you are given that line L is parallel to line M. That is important because if these two lines are parallel, that means this transversal creates congruent and supplementary angles. All right, now here is my advice to you. You could rely on the fact of figuring out what kind of angles they are and knowing congruent or supplementary. All right. What I would do is I would do the zigzag. Okay. So if you give me a set of parallel lines cut by transversal, all right, and you tell me this is 4x and this is 5x plus 7, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one of them. I'm going to zigzag across my transversal, okay, across the transversal, across the transversal, across the transversal. So now what that means is everything that is marked is congruent. Everything that is not marked is congruent to each other. So if I have one that's marked and one that's not, that means they add to be 180. Okay, so that is just my tip of how I work these. So what I would do on number 9, so let me zoom in. This angle is congruent to this angle. Now zigzag all the way across the transversal, zigzag. Okay, everything that is marked is congruent. What can you tell me about 9x minus 6 and 8x plus 3? They're equal. So you're going to set those equal. 9x minus 6 is equal to 8x plus 3. Now, if I asked you to tell me why, you'd tell me because they're vertical angles and vertical angles are equal. It's exactly what we were doing earlier. Yeah, we did vertical angles before. Now we're just going to, instead of having plain old numbers, you got some expressions. All right, so now these are equal because they're vertical, so I'm going to start solving. I'm going to take my variables to the left. I'm going to take my constants to the right, okay? Inverses cancel. And so 9 minus 8 gives me x, and then 3 plus 6 gives me 9. So x equals 9. That's all I was asked to find, so I can stop right there. All right, number 10. What I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my parallel lines. These are parallel. This is my transversal. If it helps you to make sure you're going across the transversal, you can absolutely color that transversal. If you don't need it, that's fine. Okay, so here's what I did. I started with 13x minus 7. This angle, I'm going to zigzag across that transversal. It's equal to its vertical. So zigzag, zigzag. Okay, anything that's marked is equal to each other. The two expressions I gave you, are they marked as equal to each other? No. So what does that mean? They add together to get 180. These are actually consecutive interior, which are supplementary. So 26x minus 8, add to that this angle, 13x minus 7 equals 180 degrees. If they are marked congruent, they're equal. If one is marked and one is not, that means they're not congruent and they're supplementary. So let me grab my calculator. So I'm going to combine like terms. 26 plus 13 is going to give me 39x. And negative 8 minus 7 more is going to give me a negative 15, which equals 180. So I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Inverses cancel. 39x equals 180 plus 15 is 195. And I'm going to divide by 39. Oh, what did I write? X equals 5. So that's what my x equals. X equals 5. The reason I'm finding x is because that's all it told me to do, was find the x. All right, so let's look at number 11. Okay. L and M are parallel. That makes this my transversal. And so what that creates is, if the two angles are on the same side, they are either corresponding consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, or they are alternate sides, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one of my angles. I tend to start at the top or the very bottom if I have one. If I don't, I start wherever. It doesn't matter. This angle is congruent to its vertical angle. I'm going to zigzag back across and then zigzag back across. It should be corresponding angles and their corresponding vertical angles. Now, based on what I marked, 19x minus 3 and 17x plus 11, how are they marked? Are they marked the same or differently? Look right here. Where are they located? They each have this congruent angle. So since they each have this congruent angle, they're corresponding, which means they are equal to each other. So 19x minus 3 is exactly the same size, same spot, same size, and they are equal to each other. So now what I need to do, once I have it set up, is I need to solve for x. I'm going to minus 17x to both sides. I'm going to add my 3 to both sides. Inverses cancel. That gives me 2x equals 11 plus 3 gives us 14. And when we divide by 2, what is our x value? 7. Now, you could just as easily have started here and marked the vertical, those zigzag angles, okay? If they're marked the same, they're equal. If they're both not marked, they're still equal. If one is marked and one is not, that's when they're supplementary. All right, let's look at number 12. Stay with me and stay focused. Here's my parallel lines cut by my transversal. Now, marking my transversal helps me when I'm classifying. In fact, what kind of angles are these? They're on opposite sides and inside the parallel, so that makes them alternate interior. If I know that and I know they're congruent because that's what's on the other side of my cheat sheet here, that's great. If I forget that, here's what I would do. I'm going to start with one of the angles I know. 19x minus 4 is congruent to its vertical. Now zigzag across the transversal and zigzag. What do you notice about how 17x plus 8 and 19x minus 4 are marked? They are both marked congruent. So if they are marked congruent, what does that mean about the two of them? They are equal. So if I put 17x plus 8, you're paying attention to me and only me, and you're writing what I write. Okay? So I'm going to minus 19x to both sides. I'm going to minus 8 to both sides. Inverses cancel. All right, so this is 17x minus 19, which is negative 2x. Negative 4, negative 8 is negative 12, so that when I divide by negative 2, what is negative 12 divided by negative 2? 6. X is 6. All right, number 13. There's my two parallel lines. Here's my transversal. That's really important in case I've got to go on alternate sides. All right, so I'm going to start out with this angle. I'm going to zigzag to the alternate, zigzag to the other alternate, and zigzag. Okay? These four are marked congruent. The ones that are not marked are congruent to each other. What do you notice about this angle, 13x plus 2, or plus 9, and 12x minus 4? Are they marked the same? Do they both have a congruent mark? They don't both have a congruent mark, so that means they're not equal. Instead, because they are consecutive exterior, they are supplementary. So what does it mean to be supplementary? They add to equal 180. So you take 13x plus 9, you add 12x minus 4, and that equals 180 degrees. If they were marked equal, you would just set them equal. One is marked, one is not, so they are supplementary. So now I'm going to combine like terms. So 13 plus 12 is 25x. And 9 minus 4, that's going to be plus 5, which equals 180. Solve for x, you're going to get rid of plus 5 by minus 5. 25x equals 175. And then I have to type the right things. I divide both sides by 25. And x equals 7. What would you do if I asked you to tell me the actual degree measure of this angle? Plug it in. 12 times 7 minus 4, and you'd figure that out. All right, one more for us on our cheat sheet today. Here's our two parallel lines. This is our transversal. Okay. What kind of angle relationship is it when they're on opposite sides of the transversal and outside of the parallel lines? Alternate exterior. Now, alternate exterior are going to be congruent to each other. But let's say you can't remember that, okay? I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to zigzag across my transversal, zigzag back across, zigzag. I just marked all four angles that are equal. What do you notice about the two angles I gave you? They're marked equal. So 14x minus 3 is equal to 12x plus 11. So I'm going to minus 12x on both sides. I'm going to add 3 on both sides because I'm trying to get my inverses to cancel. All right, 14 minus 12 is 2x, and 11 plus 3 is 14, so that when I divide by 2, x equals 7. All right? So, you have what I have called your cheat sheet. This has everything on it about transversal of parallel lines. Okay?